If you just look around my garage, would have been destroyed, destroyed, destroyed. Let's go to the other side. Destroyed, destroyed, destroyed. This is why I absolutely hated this program.
Locally, dealerships are hoping that the Cash for Clunkers program continues. They say it's been revving up business.
Brent Boma, sales manager at Salinas Valley Ford, says the program has been a huge success so far. Boma has taken in cars like these, a 1988 Ford pickup that gets only 8 miles per gallon, and this Crown Victoria that gets 12 miles per gallon. Its owner traded it for a Fusion hybrid that gets 43 miles per gallon.
Okay, let's rewind. Let's go back to June of 2009, a period I think in the automotive industry that is terrible. And the reason why I say so because of the CARS program, also called Cash for Clunkers. So you have this nice little car, you're driving around, and then the government comes out and says, hey, if your car meets the requirements, meaning that your car is less than 25 years old. So if it was 2009, you can go back into the 90s, obviously. And if you get a specific type of fuel efficiency, less than 18 miles a gallon. So you have a 98 SUV, you have a 1990 Suburban getting less than 18 miles per gallon, you qualified for a $4,500 credit. So this car you're driving, all of a sudden into the dealership, they're going to put something on the windshield. They usually put something in the oil or the fuel to basically make it impossible for somebody else to get it because they're going to ruin the engine. And the next thing you know, it's going to be hauled away and shoved into something and taken to a scrapyard, never to be seen again. Cash for Clunkers. It would give you $4,500 as a credit. And why were they doing this? Because the economy was in an absolute wreck. Absolute wreck. So this is a way to inject more money into the economy. It was a federal initiative that they started, hopefully with the desire to boost the automotive industry. So you would trade in your old car, you would get a voucher. The voucher could be up to $4,500. You go buy a new car, so you're putting more money back into the economy. Theoretically, you probably had a car that was paid off and nothing was wrong with it, but hey, they'll give me $4,500. That's a great value at the time. So I can go buy a new car, I can get a new loan, I can pay interest, and I'm stimulating the economy. It did provide a temporary boost to the automotive industry. They also claimed that it had a good environmental impact. It got a lot of clunkers. Much of what I have in here that I called out would have been clunked. And it may have made people more conscious of fuel-efficient vehicles, so on and so forth. This program has been a topic for years. Was it efficient? Should the government have intervened? Was it valuable? Did it actually do something? There was a total of 677,081 cars pulled off the road. I remember seeing like awesome Suburbans and Scottsdale pickup trucks that drove perfectly fine. But the owner said, well, this is $4,500 if I sell it. At the time, I'll get maybe $2,000 if I'm lucky. It was a no-brainer at the time for a lot of people. It took so many 1980s and 1990s cars off the road and exotics. So there's a report that I just stumbled upon, which actually outlines every single one of the 677,081 cars that were pulled off and effectively destroyed, right? No longer hopefully recycled, so on and so forth. So I'm going to flash that link up here and you can kind of take a peek at it. But we're talking, if I'm looking at it right now, it's 138 pages. But when we get in here, we have Alfa Romeos, we have AMCs like the Eagle, we have tons of Audis. We have endless BMWs, a 3 Series, a 318i, a 325i, 735i, a 530i Touring, a 735. We have boatloads of BMWs. I mean, I'm on page 5 of BMWs. A ton of Buicks, the Park Avenue, the Buick Roadmaster, which people love nowadays. They love that wagon if you can get your hands on it. You have a ton of Cadillacs, anywhere from the DeVille to the Eldorado to the Fleetwood to the Escalade, all examples. You keep scrolling, Chevy was hit really hard. Anywhere from the Camaros to the Colorados to the El Caminos to the G10 and G20 vans, a van that I've been looking at buying potentially now, all the way down to K1500 pickups to Luminas. You get outside of Chevy, next thing you know, and Chevy has a lot on here. I mean, the Suburbans, that just crucifies me. I love old Suburbans and just tons of them. And then you get down even farther, Chevy actually has, golly, it looks like 20 some odd pages. Then you start getting the Chryslers, and then you hit Dodge, the Avengers, the B-Series vans and pickups, the Caravans. I mean, 677,000 cars from every manufacturer. Ford Broncos, pages of Ford Broncos, Aerostar vans that were destroyed, you name it. F-150s, F-250s, Ford Ranger pickups. Let's go all the way. I'm going to go all the way to page, 107. Now getting to Mazdas. This is interesting. I would have expected as many Mazdas, but specifically the B-Series pickup trucks, the B2600 and I guess the MPVs, those are in there. And a lot of the RX-7s are on here as well, and the Mazda Tributes. Mercedes got hit pretty hard. Some of those Mercedes I talked about in the back garage there would have been destroyed. We have anywhere on here from the 500 SL all the way up to the 300s, which I have. You have some of the E320 wagons, the E420s. So my point here is this is a very, very intriguing list to look at. Because when we look at the car market today, in fact, it's the weekend and in Houston, Texas, you're going to watch this after the fact, but the MeCume auction is happening. And there's just tons of cars going over the auction block, many of which technically qualified for casual clunkers and theoretically could have gotten a credit of $4,500 and they would have been destroyed. So I get why the program existed, but I do believe there could have been better ways to handle this. I was doing web development work in the automotive industry at the time. I was doing some freelance and I had a regular job as well. And I mean, some people were trading in cars that were perfectly fine, frankly. And I remember seeing they had a lot in the back of the dealership, and they had to put up a fence around. It was kind of wacky. It was like, a quarantine area. And there were just cars every day going in. This is one of the biggest privately held dealerships at the time. Endless cars going in. And I look at these cars and I'm like, yeah, it's worth, in theory, at that time, less than $4,500, but it drove just fine. And technically, they say it got less than 18 miles a gallon, but I think some of these, you could have probably squeezed more MPGs out of them. But in any event, these trucks were scrapped, thrown away. Many parts recycled, many things couldn't be recycled. They just had to be destroyed, right? And then you have somebody coming in that can't afford a car. And there's a lot back there of things we're going to take to the dump effectively in the bin, and they couldn't get a car. I feel like there could have been a better way to stimulate the economy, but I'm not an economist. I don't know. I'm a car guy. And this is just a dark cloud, in my opinion, over the industry. And for folks like myself, I just really appreciate when I see cars that have been saved from cash for clunkers. And they may not be perfect show cars, but, the ones where 677,000 others got destroyed, and it's still on the road, and it's still driving people around. I had a mid-90s Suburban that I ended up selling, but that was one example of a car I just enjoyed driving, and it was very practical, and it did a lot of great things for me up until about 8 or 9 years ago when I got rid of it. So cash for clunkers, I hope it never happens again. There's a fear in the back of my head that the EVs are kind of peaked. Right? People aren't buying EVs as much as they were. And I'm like, I just hope the government doesn't step in and say, hey, we'll give you X dollars to trade in your ICE vehicle to get an EV, because there's just going to be maybe 500,000 to 1 million cars taken out, and future generations won't be able to enjoy those, which we consider daily drivers now. They will be classics at some point, and preserving that industry and preserving that car culture means a lot to me. So let me know in the comments, what did you think of Cash for Clunkers? Or maybe you don't know much about it. What do you think of it now? And do you think this is something that could come back in the near future? Let's hope not. But hey, it's Jason. Thanks for tuning in to jams.net. Give me a subscribe on YouTube. You're going to learn about cars. You're going to see my car collection, a lot of DIY projects, and of course, random adventures, whether it's chasing a car, going to Carlisle or Hershey swaps, cars and coffee, or even other crazy things at the building, like some of the antiques and stuff we have. Have a great day. Thanks for tuning in. See you later.